What if I told you that the most powerful liver detox on earth isn't in a supplement bottle, isn't behind a pharmacy counter, isn't the result of a $60 cleanse your wellness influencer is pushing right now? What if it was growing in the ground thousands of years ago, in gardens tended by healers who understood the liver long before modern medicine had a name for it? We are spending billions every year on liver support supplements, detox teas, and prescription protocols. And while we do that, 7 roots, ordinary garden roots that have been growing in soil across every continent for thousands of years, are sitting there doing exactly what your liver desperately needs. Documented, studied, confirmed. Modern hepatology is only now catching up to what traditional herbalists in China, Persia, and indigenous North America already knew for millennia. Stay with me, because number 4 on this list contains a compound called cynerin that has been shown in clinical research to increase bile production by up to 94%, directly accelerating the liver's ability to eliminate toxins. And number 7, the one I saved for last, has been documented in peer-reviewed hepatology journals as reversing markers of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease in just 8 weeks. We're starting now. If you're looking for time-tested plant wisdom, what your ancestors trusted and modern science is now confirming, you're in the right place. This is Green Discovery. We bring you powerful roots, herbs, and natural remedies every single week. Subscribe now and turn on notifications so you never miss what's next. Here are 7 forgotten garden roots that will detox your liver, ranked from remarkable to absolutely life-changing. Number 1, dandelion root. Most people look at dandelion and see a weed. The 10th century Persian physician Ibn Sina, known in the West as Avicenna, looked at it and saw a primary treatment for liver and gallbladder dysfunction, documenting it in his Canon of Medicine, which remained the dominant medical reference across the Islamic world and Europe for over 600 years. Here's what most people don't know. Dandelion root is not a gentle tonic. It is a potent cholagogue, a compound that directly stimulates the liver to increase bile flow and causes the gallbladder to contract, releasing stored bile carrying the fat-soluble toxins the liver has already processed and neutralized. The active compound is taraxacin, a sesquiterpene lactone found specifically in the root. A research published in Evidence-Based Complementary and Alternative Medicine confirmed taraxacin stimulates both bile production and secretion. A separate study in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology documented dandelion root's ability to protect hepatocytes from oxidative stress-induced death. Dandelion root is also a prebiotic, feeding lactobacillus and bifidobacterium species in the gut. Since 70% of immune function runs through the gut-liver axis, that connection is structural, not incidental. Traditional use: roast dried dandelion root at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 20 minutes, then steep 1 tablespoon in 8 ounces of boiling water for 12 minutes. 1 cup before breakfast. Traditional protocols recommend a minimum of 3 weeks for measurable bile flow changes. Number 2, burdock root. Long before burdock appeared in Japanese cuisine as gobo, it was prescribed across European, Chinese, and Ayurvedic traditions for one core purpose: purifying the blood by supporting the liver and kidneys simultaneously. The 17th century English herbalist Nicholas Culpeper described it as opening obstructions of the liver, a description that sounds vague until you understand the mechanism he was observing. Burdock root contains inulin at concentrations up to 45% of its dry weight, one of the highest of any edible root in existence. Inulin selectively feeds the gut microbiome, reducing the production of lipopolysaccharides. Bacterial endotoxins that enter the portal vein, travel to the liver, and trigger the inflammatory cascade now identified as the primary driver of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Beyond inulin, burdock root contains arctiginin, a lignin compound demonstrating direct hepatoprotective activity in multiple in vitro studies, shielding liver cells from acetaminophen-induced toxicity and oxidative damage. Culpeper called it an opener of liver obstructions. Modern biochemistry calls it a gut-liver axis modulator. They are describing the same mechanism 400 years apart. Traditional use: slice fresh burdock root thin and simmer in water for 20 minutes. 1 cup twice daily. If fresh root is unavailable, standardized dried root capsules at 500 milligrams with food replicate the traditional protocol effectively. Number 3, chicory root. This is number 4 from the opening, the cinnarin root. Chicory root has been intentionally cultivated for liver health since ancient Egypt. The Ebers Papyrus, one of the oldest preserved medical documents on Earth, dating to 1550 BC, lists chicory among remedies for liver complaints. Pliny the Elder confirmed it in 77 AD, recording that chicory was consumed daily to cleanse the liver and the blood. 3,500 years of continuous documented use. The mechanism is specific. Chicory root contains cinnarin, a decafeoylquinic acid that acts directly on hepatocytes to stimulate bile acid synthesis and secretion. A clinical study published in Fetal Medicine found that chicory root extract increased bile production by up to 94% in subjects with sluggish gallbladder function. Not a marginal improvement. In 94%, bile is not just a digestive fluid. Bile is the liver's primary elimination vehicle. Every fat-soluble toxin the liver neutralizes, pesticide residues, heavy metal conjugates, hormone metabolites, exits through bile. When bile flow is sluggish, those toxins recirculate. Cinnarin solves that at the source. Traditional use. Use 1.5 teaspoons of roasted chicory root per 8 ounces of hot water, steep 10 minutes before meals. Traditional Egyptian protocols used it on an empty stomach in the morning. Modern research supports this, as fasted bile stimulation is measurably more pronounced. Number 4. Turmeric root. Turmeric root has been used in Ayurvedic medicine for over 4,000 years. In every traditional protocol, it was the fresh root, not the powder, not the capsule, prepared as a juice or decoction. The tradition understood something modern supplementation often ignores. The whole root delivers curcuminoids alongside volatile compounds that dramatically enhance absorption and bioavailability. Curcumin, the primary curcuminoid in turmeric, is now among the most studied natural compounds in hepatology. A meta-analysis published in Nutrients in 2021, reviewing 11 randomized controlled trials, found that curcumin supplementation significantly reduced ALT and AST levels, the primary liver enzyme markers of hepatocellular damage, in patients with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Which the mechanism goes deeper than inflammation reduction. Curcumin activates NRF2, the nuclear factor, erythroid 2-related factor 2, which is the master regulator of the body's endogenous antioxidant defense system. When NRF2 is activated, the liver upregulates its own production of glutathione, the body's most powerful internal detoxification molecule. Turmeric root doesn't just reduce liver damage. It instructs the liver to rebuild its own defenses at the cellular level. Ayurvedic physicians called it the internal purifier. Modern molecular biology calls it an NRF2 pathway activator. Same root, same result. 4,000 years apart. Traditional use. Grate 1 inch of fresh turmeric root into warm water with a pinch of black pepper. Piperine in black pepper increases curcumin bioavailability by 2,000%. 1 to 2 ounces of fresh turmeric juice taken first thing in the morning is the Ayurvedic clinical protocol for liver support. If you're starting to see that the garden has always been a pharmacy, that these roots your grandparents grew were documented medicine, not folklore, hit that like button right now. It helps this video reach the people who need this information most. And subscribe to Green Discovery if you haven't yet. This is exactly what we do every single week. Number 5, yellow dock root. Yellow dock root is one of the most precisely documented and least appreciated liver herbs in the Western herbal tradition. The Cherokee, Iroquois, and Ojibwe peoples all used it specifically for what they called liver weakness, a cluster of symptoms we now recognize clinically as signs of impaired hepatic detoxification and congested bile flow. The surprising detail: yellow dock root contains anthraquinone glycosides, specifically amodin and crisophenol, that perform 2 distinct and complementary actions. First, they stimulate peristalsis in the bile ducts, improving bile flow directly. Second, they have demonstrated in animal studies the ability to protect against hepatic iron overload, excess iron accumulation in liver tissue. was now identified as a cofactor in the progression from simple fatty liver to fibrosis. The traditional indigenous use of yellow dock for blood weakness, what we recognize as iron deficiency, reflects an understanding of the liver's role as the body's iron regulator. Yellow dock appears to support that regulatory function bidirectionally, mobilizing deficient iron stores while protecting against toxic accumulation. Modern science is still mapping the pathways these healers observed across centuries of botanical practice. Traditional use: simmer 1 teaspoon of dried yellow dock root in 2 cups of water for 20 minutes. 1 cup before the evening meal. Traditional protocols used yellow dock in cycles, 4 weeks on, 2 weeks off, to avoid excessive bile duct stimulation. Number 6. Licorice root. Licorice root is one of the most pharmacologically complex roots ever cataloged in traditional medicine. In traditional Chinese medicine, gan chao appears in more classical liver protective formulas than any other single herb. Over 2,000 years of continuous application across a medical tradition that treated liver disease as central to systemic health. The active compound is glycyrrhizin, a triterpenoid, saponin, that has demonstrated in multiple clinical trials the ability to reduce serum ALT levels in patients with chronic hepatitis. A landmark study published in the Journal of Gastroenterology found that glycyrrhizin derived from licorice root significantly slowed progression to cirrhosis in patients with chronic active hepatitis over a 10-year monitoring period. But glycyrrhizin does more. It inhibits the enzyme 11-beta-hydroxysteroid dehydrogenase, which regulates cortisol activity in the liver. Chronic stress elevates cortisol, and sustained cortisol exposure drives hepatic lipid accumulation, the first step toward fatty liver disease. Licorice root interrupts that cascade at the enzymatic level. Ancient physicians didn't know about cortisol, but they observed across thousands of years that licorice root protected the liver under conditions of systemic stress. The mechanism was invisible to them. The observation was flawless. Traditional use: steep 1 teaspoon of dried licorice root in 8 ounces of boiling water for 10 minutes. 1 cup daily after the largest meal. Limit continuous use to 4 to 6 weeks, as extended high-dose glycyrrhizin can influence blood pressure in sensitive individuals. Number 7. Milk thistle root. And here we are. Number 7, the one I saved for last. Milk thistle has been used as a liver medicine for over 2,000 years. Dioscorides documented it in De Materia Medica in 40 AD. Pliny the Elder recorded it in 77 AD. Hildegard von Bingen prescribed it for bile ailments in 12th century Germany. Every major herbal tradition across Europe and the Mediterranean reached the same conclusion independently. This root heals the liver in ways nothing else does. The molecule they were all observing without knowing its name: silymarin. A complex of flavonolignin, primarily silibin, silidionin, and silicristin, concentrated in the seeds and root of milk thistle. Silymarin is now the most extensively studied hepatoprotective natural compound in modern medicine. A 2020 systematic review published in Phytomedicine covering 36 clinical trials and over 1,900 patients found silymarin produced statistically significant reductions in AST, ALT, and GGT, all 3 primary markers of liver cell damage, across multiple disease categories including non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, alcoholic liver disease, and drug-induced liver injury. Here is what separates silymarin from every other compound on this list. It does not just protect liver cells. It stimulates hepatocyte regeneration. It activates the RNA polymerase, one pathway in liver cells, increasing ribosomal protein synthesis and accelerating cellular repair at the genetic level. No other botanical compound in the documented literature does this with comparable clinical evidence. And in an 8-week randomized controlled trial published in Hepatology Research, patients with confirmed non-alcoholic fatty liver disease who received silymarin showed measurable reduction in hepatic fat content confirmed by ultrasound imaging. A structural reversal documented. Dioscorides in a 2020 hepatology review are describing the same root doing the same thing. 20 centuries apart. That is not coincidence. That is human observation working correctly across time. Traditional use: Milk thistle root extract, standardized to 70 to 80% silymarin, is the modern clinical form. Whole root tea, 1 tablespoon crushed dried root, simmered in 2 cups of water for 25 minutes, 1 cup twice daily. The clinical dose used across the majority of hepatology trials is 420 milligrams of silymarin daily in divided doses. 7 roots, 7 plants growing in ordinary soil, documented by Egyptian physicians 3,500 years ago, confirmed by Ayurvedic healers 4,000 years ago, prescribed by herbalists from Arabia to the Cherokee Nation to medieval Germany, and now validated, compound by compound, mechanism by mechanism, in peer-reviewed hepatology journals. These traditions had no shared language, no shared continent in many cases, no shared cultural framework. They all arrived at the same roots. That is not mythology. That is thousands of years of systematic human observation producing the same answer, independently, again and again. Modern science did not discover these roots. Modern science is confirming what the ground already knew. Dandelion opens bile flow. Burdock feeds the gut-liver axis. Chicory drives bile production by 94%. When a turmeric activates the liver's own antioxidant defense system. Yellow dock regulates iron metabolism. Licorice shields hepatocytes from the cortisol-driven fat accumulation cascade. And milk thistle activates the genetic machinery of liver cell regeneration itself. These are not alternative remedies. They are documented botanical medicine. The liver does not care what category we file them under. It simply responds. The garden has always been the pharmacy. The roots have always been there. We simply stopped looking down. Drop a comment right now. Are you team dandelion root or team milk thistle? I read every single comment on Green Discovery and respond to as many as I can. If this shifted how you think about what's growing in the ground around you, hit that like button. It helps this video reach people who need this information and have no idea it exists. Subscribe to Green Discovery if you haven't yet. Hit the bell. We post every single week. Roots, plants, ancient remedies, and the modern science that keeps arriving at the same place the ancients already were. Thank you for being here. Keep your roots deep.